Hello, dear students. Welcome to the online class for BA Part 2. This video is made for the students of English Literature, and in this video, I am going to explain the poem The Solitary Reaper, written by William Wordsworth. Before starting explanation, I would like to introduce you about William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth was a great romanticist. He was born in 1770 and died in 1850. He is one of the leading figures of the Romantic movement. Left an orphan at 13, Wordsworth was brought up by an uncle. He started his career as a poet in 1793. It was the publication of the lyrical ballads in 1798 which finally heralded Romanticism. Not only did the poems express a new attitude to nature but also a new faith in man. The poems, a collaborative venture by Wordsworth and Coleridge, used language and meter differently from the manner it had been handled by most of the 18th century poets. So, in this poem, The Solitary Reaper, we are going to study about some romantic images, some sweet music, melancholy atmosphere, and simplicity. This poem was written by Wordsworth when he was on the trip to Scotland in 1803 with his sister Dorothy Wordsworth, and this poem published in 1807. In this poem, the poet is describing about a Scottish girl who is lonely in the field and doing the field work of sickling and binding the grain. And in this poem first line starts with apostrophe. Apostrophe means the figures of speech in which the writer directly address someone. It may be an inanimate object or it may be an imaginary person. So in the opening line you can see the poet is writing that behold her single in the field, yon solitary highland lass, reaping and singing by herself, stop here or gently pass. Alone she cuts and binds the grain and sings a melancholy strain. Oh, listen, for the vale profound is overflowing with the sound. This is a pattern of a writing of Wordsworth. In this pattern, first four lines are roughly ballad and last four lines are in the form of couplet. So in the first four lines, the poet is addressing the reader directly and he is saying that you should look at her single in the field, that girl, that Scottish girl who is single in the field, and yon solitary highland lass. And the poet is giving some adjectives about the girl, that she is solitary means lonely, and she is related to, she belong to highland, and lass means the girl. So the poet is directly addressing the readers and he is saying that you should look at look at the girl who is solitary and single in the field, reaping and singing by herself. The girl is doing the both the activities along. She is reaping and also singing. Stop here or gently pass. This line, stop here or gently pass, makes three meanings. First, the poet want the reader to stop at the spectacle uh, he should gently pass. Second meaning is that the poet is thinking himself that whether he should stop there or he should gently pass. Alone she cuts and binds the grain and sings a melancholy strain. Now, in the last four lines of this stanza, the poet is again mentioning that girl. He is saying that the girl is alone and she is cutting and binding the grain herself and sings a melancholy strain. Strain means song. The girl is the girl is singing about the singing a sad song. Oh listen, the poet is again using apostrophe and he is saying, oh listen, for the veil profound is overflowing with the sound. Ki, the poet is addressing the reader that you should listen the song because the song has overflowed the valley very much. So in this stanza there are, I would like to mention some of the critical comments about this stanza. You should take notice that line number 4 has antithesis, because here the poet is using stop here or gently pass. And again in line number 5, alone she cuts and binds the grain, the poet is using the figure of speech is inversion. And in line number 7 he is using apostrophe again and also the hyperbole, because he is saying that the valley is overflowing with the sound of that melancholy song. Now we are again going to explain second stanza that starts with these lines. No nightingale did ever chant more welcome notes to weary bands of travelers in some shady haunt among Arabian sands. A voice so thrilling never was heard in springtime from the cuckoo bird, breaking the silence of the seas among the farthest Hebrides. The poet is again glorifying the song of the Scottish girl, and he is saying that no nightingale did ever chant more welcome notes to weary bands. Welcome notes means welcome song, and weary bands means the fatigued group of travelers who are traveling in the Arabian sand. So the poet is saying that it never happened that any nightingale had sung that most welcome song to the fatigued group of the traveler among Arabian sands, but rather the Scottish girl is singing more welcome notes to the weary bands of travelers. So here the poet is comparing the song of nightingale to the Scottish girl in the lonely field. In last four lines, the poet is saying that a voice so thrilling never was heard in springtime from the cuckoo bird, breaking the silence of the seas among the farthest Hebrides. Again, the poet is enthralled by the voice of the girl, and he is saying that a voice so thrilling never was heard. He is saying that I haven't heard that type of thrilling voice in springtime from the cuckoo bird. Even I didn't listen so thrilling voice in springtime from the cuckoo bird. Cuckoo bird is another example of a bird whose music is so soothing to our ears. So the poet is again comparing the song of that girl to cuckoo bird, and again giving importance to the voice of that girl. In last two lines of this second stanza, the poet is again using hyperbole, and he is saying that this the girl's song is breaking the silence of the sea among the farthest Hebrides, and the poet is taking us to the Hebride, that is an island on the western coast of Scotland, and he is saying that the sound of that girl has broken the silence of the sea, and the island that is Hebride is also full of the sound and song of the Scottish girl. Now in this stanza, the poet is again using inversion. Inversion means the act of changing the situation or changing the pattern of the sentence. So in line number first, there is a use of alliteration like no nightingale, some shady, among Arabian also, and In line number 5, a voice so thrilling never was heard. The poet is here using inversion and also metaphor, because he is comparing the sound of that girl to nightingale and cuckoo bird also. And last two lines of this stanza have used hyperbole in the last two lines of the stanza. Now we are going to explain or to study next, means our third stanza. In this third stanza, the poet is in contemplative mood, and he is thinking that what is the theme of the girl's song, because the poet can't understand the language. Why it is so? It is so because the girl is singing in a Gaelic language that is not known to William Wordsworth. So the first line of this stanza starts with an interrogative question, that is, will no one tell me what she sings? Perhaps the plaintive numbers flow for old unhappy far off things and battles long ago. Now, in these four lines, the poet is thinking about the theme of the song. He is saying that, will no one tell me what she sings? He is asking the question that, is there anyone who will tell me what is she singing, because I am not able to understand what she is singing, because she is singing in the Gaelic language. Perhaps, now in second line the poet is giving the answer himself. He is saying that perhaps the plaintive numbers flow. The poet is thinking that perhaps this is the song of some sad song. Plaintive numbers means some sad song, some mournful song for old unhappy far off thing. Now the poet is imagining that the girl is singing that mournful song for the old people that died before her, and battles long ago. And the song is about the battles that happened long ago. In next four lines the poet is saying that, or is it some more humble lay? Again the poet is thinking and going to another direction, and he is saying that, or is it some more humble lay, familiar matter of today? The poet is again guessing that maybe it is the humble lay. Lay, lay here means short lyric poem. The poet is thinking that maybe this is the short lyric poem of familiar matter of today, familiar matter of day to day life, some natural sorrow. Now the poet is again guessing the theme, that maybe the song is about some natural sorrow, or some loss, or some pain that has happened to that girl, or maybe again happened to that girl. So the poet is, in this stanza the poet is thinking about the theme and guessing some of the answers himself. In this stanza we can see the far-reaching quality of imagination of poet, and also onomatopoeic sounds are present in this stanza. Now let's go to stanza number 4, that starts with the line, whatever the theme, the maiden sang. Maiden means that girl, that Scottish girl. As if her song could have no ending, I saw her singing at her work and over the sickle bending. The poet is saying that, now the poet is dropping the idea about discovering the theme, and he is saying whatever the theme, he doesn't care about the theme. The poet is saying that whatever the theme, the maiden sang as if her song could have no ending. The poet is wishing that I don't have any major concern to the girl's theme of the song, and he is wishing that her song could have no ending. I saw her singing at her work and over the sickle bending. The poet is thinking that this girl is continuously singing at her work, and over the sickle bending, the girl is bending over the sickle and singing the song, and the poet is no longer the poet is no longer worried about the theme of the song. The next four lines started with, I listened motionless and still, and as I mounted up the hill, the music in my heart I bore long after it was heard no more. Now the poet is very much enthralled by the music, by the sound, and by the song of the girl, that Scottish girl, and he is saying that listened at I listened that song very carefully, and I was motionless and still with the infatuation of that song. And as I mounted up the hill, now the poet is going to anywhere else, and he is saying that, and as I mounted up the hill, the music in my heart I bore, I long after it was here no more. The poet is saying that I will remember this song forever, and this will bear in my heart, this music will bear in my heart long after it was here no more, because I will never have a chance to listen this type of music, to hear this type of music again. So the poet is wishing that this type of music will forever remain in his heart. Now let's start with the critical comments about this stanza. In this stanza also, the poet is using inversion in line number 4, that is, and over the sickle bending. I listened motionless and still, and as I mounted up the hill. Here is again the use of inversion. In line number 6, the music in my heart I bore, and also in line number 5, long after it was here no more. Here the poet is using hyperbole because he is saying that I will never have a chance to listen this type of music forever in my life. So this is about the poem, and I have told you about the critical comments of this poem. Whatever what you have to do in this, in your homework, you have to take explanation of these stanzas, and you have to analyze all the lines of these stanza. You will have to figure out what are the rhythmic pattern here used in this poem, and you should also have further knowledge about the poetic qualities of William Wordsworth. William Wordsworth was a romantic poet, and he thinks that poetry is spontaneous overflow of powerful feeling, recollected in tranquility. The poetic pattern of the language Wordsworth used in his poetry was very simple, and you can see that on this screen, on this point, in this poem also. So this is all about today. Thank you all.